Come on by and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, the place where your spirit goes when something tells you it might be time to change direction. Welcome back to Crossroads Coaching on a Monday. I'm Steve McCurdy, your host. And on these Mondays, we're kind of taking a look at one coaching idea at a time, one big chunk of helpful information that comes from some of the great coaches throughout time. Today, we're going to be looking at the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. This is his very, very popular, very successful book that's a summary and his kind of take on ancient Toltec wisdom that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to have you take a look at maybe agreeing with me to look at this through the lens for the moment of the idea that we rarely interact actually with reality, but rather our perception of reality and the clouds and pressures that we have on us at that moment in time, and our development and our place in emotional development. And the thing that we know about our perception of reality is it's always going to be wrong. We just don't know which way and how much. But our success in life is dependent upon our internal image of the world that we create and the degree of accuracy between that image and what's actually going on. And that's very tough because these days the disruptors that have always existed are now very, very, very great, maybe more than ever. And they've been weaponized so that we often have no idea who to believe. So the world that we create and our perception of reality is very, very tenuous. If we stipulate that that is the case, then the agreements become even more important. The agreements are 4. The first one is be impeccable with your word. And the word impeccable means without sin. And sin is really a confused perception word. Sin is to miss the mark. It's an archery term. And it doesn't mean that you're evil. It doesn't mean that you are a horrible person and that you have dark intent. It just means you didn't hit what you're aiming at. You missed the mark. So to be impeccable with your word, to be without sin, is to say what you mean, to mean what you say, and to use language and structure that accurately reflects the emotion and the notion that you have in your mind. So you have to take responsibility for your actions and your outcomes to be impeccable with your word. You have to speak with integrity, which means choosing words carefully to actually mean what you mean, to say accurately that which you're saying. That means concentrating on communication and language, vocabulary. And so when you do that, you might get caught up in the emotions of things and misspeak. And when you get challenged, you go, well, you know what I mean. Well, actually, they don't know what you mean. And you get angry with them for not reading your mind. And we're going to look at that more when we get to 3. But the first one is be impeccable with your word. That's the first agreement that you have with yourself, that you are going to concentrate on your communication being as accurate and reflective of what you actually mean and feel as you're possibly capable of at that moment. So then we'll go to the second agreement, which is to take nothing personally. Now, this is where we all get in a lot of trouble because it's so very difficult to not do that. Anything that happens, we kind of look at through the viewpoint of how it affects us. And that's very, very natural. But the dangers there are that you get caught up in your own personal drama and that of others. And they may say or do things that are not impeccable. Their word is not impeccable about that. And then we fill in the blanks if we are going to take things personally. And that leads us to number 3. We also then make assumptions. And the assumptions are where we view what it is that we're hearing, the words of another. We're building that into the world and the perception that we currently have. And there are gaps. And instead of challenging or asking a question, because we don't like the word challenge, instead of saying, I'm not sure what you mean by that, think about what, when psychologists are talking to you, they constantly are saying, what do you mean by that? Well, what does that mean? And you go, well, what does it mean? Of course, it means what it means, because you assume that others perceive these things and these words and these ideas exactly like you do, which is always wrong. So when you challenge these things that you maybe even take personally, you get to the crux of the issue. You get down to the bottom of it. Those three things are very difficult: being impeccable with your word, not taking anything personally, and not making assumptions. So the fourth agreement that you have with yourself is to do the best you can at the time. It is said that if we're always just doing our best, making the best decision in light of the information and the assumptions and the fears and the concerns and the stage of life that we're in at any point in time, if we do our best, then that obviates regret. We later in life don't have regret about things that we gave it our best shot at the time. If we feel like we phoned it in, or we just went with the assumptions because it was easier, or we were lazy, we can have regrets, and it can be very difficult. So the 4 agreements, and Ruiz's book is available everywhere books are sold. It is a simple little book, a wonderful read, worth rereading, maybe even annually. But the coaching that you are to get from the 4 agreements is the way that you perceive and work with the world with yourself. That the agreements that you have with yourself about how you're going to take a look at everything that's going on. They say that emotional maturity is the gap between stimulus and response. It's in that gap that you can take these habits to heart. You can determine that your response to the situation will be you being impeccable with your word, not just a knee-jerk reaction to the offense you might have taken because you took what was said personally. When you don't take it personally, when you ask yourself, what do they mean by this? And maybe even ask them. You'll find out that it's more cases than not, it's a drama going on with inside of them, that they have cast you in a role in that drama that you never auditioned for, or that assumptions are being made and you can challenge the assumptions. With this kind of communication, being impeccable with your own word, not taking things personally and not making assumptions and challenging what you think you understand in non-confrontational ways, which are skills unto themselves, and doing your best to do that, you will live a life that is more present, more now, and will frequently come closer to being a life that is actually interacting with whatever the truth is of the situation. So on Thursdays, we do case studies, and we will take a look at how people have come to the Crossroad Diner at difficult places where they were trying to make a decision. Often they haven't been impeccable with their word, and they haven't even said to themselves what the situation actually is. The exercises can help with that. The agreements can help with that. And so next Thursday, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be looking at the life of a person who's come to a decision-making place in the diner, and listen to yourself. Listen to whether or not they are being impeccable with their word as they describe their life and their decisions. Had they made assumptions or taken things personally that resulted in them being in the diner? And are they making assumptions now or taking things personal now? And are they doing their best? That's a question that we always ask ourselves. But on next Monday, we'll have another little chunk of coaching that should be helpful as you assess your day. But as you go through the day today, look at all of your interactions and see, was I impeccable with my word? Did I take something they said personally and this was a knee-jerk reaction? How would I rather have done that? And then don't make assumptions and look at points when you did. Then forgive yourself. Give yourself some grace and realize that you were doing the best that you can at the time, and just try to do a little bit better next time. Until next Monday, I'm Steve McCurdy, Crossroad Coaching. See you Thursday in the Crossroad Diner for a case study of a life at a decision point. Come on by and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, the place where your spirit goes when something tells you it might be time to change direction.